don't even know. Okay. This is live, so I'm hoping it is. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of my Genealogy Live interviews. Just a quick apology for the fact that I was almost 10 minutes late. And also, you may notice that this isn't what I typically use. StreamYard, being the delight that it is, decided to give up on me. So I wasn't able to use it, so I'm using this, and I'm not sure this will go fantastic smoothly, but we can hope. Further ado, I'll bring on my guest. She's the author of the I keep forgetting things. The Magic of German Church Records, a genealogist and German translator, Katherine Schober.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hello, Katherine. If this decides to, Katherine.
Hello, thanks so much for having me today.
Thanks for coming on. I mean, you're kind of like a little metaphor pig for this, because I have no idea if this will decide to work or not.
Okay.
So
we'll hope for the best.
Think of it as that. Just think of it as yeah, that's all we have to do. Oh dear. So let's get started. For anyone watching that might necessarily know about your work, could you perhaps give a quick introduction?
Sure. So I'm a German genealogy translator. So that means that I work with the old German handwriting in documents such as letters and diaries and church records and vital records, pretty much anything and everything for people who are researching their German ancestors. I translate to English. And then I've also been developing courses teaching people how to read the handwriting themselves. And I'm currently working on a German language course for genealogy too.
Oh, great! So you deal with like the worst of the thing. Is that it? Or like, you know?
I do. Yes. The easiest for me is usually about the 1800s. That's I can read piece of cake. The further back you go, the 1600s, 1500s, then that gives me a little bit of pause. I can do it, but it definitely takes longer for me than the 17 and 1800s. So I've seen it all.
Fair enough. I think you may come in handy to people when it comes to reading the old handwriting, because there are some undesirable examples I've come across in my own family history that doesn't have the best handwriting. And then there are some that are written like as if they took like an hour per letter. It looks so neat.
I know there's some when I see it and I say, oh, that's just beautiful. And then others just gives you a headache and makes you want to pull your hair out. So you definitely get both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how did you get into genealogy?
Well, kind of a bunch of different reasons. When I was little, we had relatives in Germany, so distant cousins who still were in Germany, and they started doing genealogy, and they actually published a huge book about, I can't remember, this thick, all about our family history from the 1600s up until the year they published it, which was 1994. And so we were all included in it, which was great. And it went really far back, and they had pictures and everything, but it was all in German. And at that point, I didn't speak German. As a little kid, I never learned German, but I just loved to sit there and page through the book and look at the pictures. So that kind of really just sparked my interest. I was fascinated by it. And I always loved history. I've always read historical fiction and anything I could get my hands on from the past. I always loved it. And then I taught English in Austria for 3 years up until 2014. And when I came back, I wanted to be a translator because my master's degree was in German. So I wanted to find some type of career in translating. And after a while, I ended up starting my own translation business. originally planning on translating everything, but I got a few requests for historical documents from World War II, and I was just hooked. I was like, this is so much more fun than translating manuals about how train tracks work or things like that. So gradually I was able to kind of solely focus on the history, and it's been, I guess, about 6 years of solely genealogy translation, and I love it. It's really fun.
Well, I mean, as the saying goes, you know, if you do a job you love, you never work a day in your life, and it honestly sounds like you're kind of living through that at the moment.
Yes, of course, there's definitely the hard day. There's definitely the hard days, but overall, I love it. I love language and I love history, so I just feel so lucky that I've found a job where I get to combine the two passions.
Well, that's even better if you can get more than one thing in it that you love doing. So, what resources have you found most helpful in your research? Because I guarantee you probably have dealt with quite a lot.
Yeah, so for me, it's been more on the translation side of things. So one of my favorite resources for when you're trying to transcribe that old handwriting, whether it be German or any other language, is the website wordmine.info. And this is a really cool website where you can type in the letters that you recognize and then put a little asterisk or wildcard feature for the letters that you don't, and pick your language. So I, of course, always do it for German, but they have Italian and Danish, and I think about 15 different languages you can do this for. And then it will give you a list of all the words in that language with that letter combination. So if you can only read about half the word in handwriting, you can type that half of the word in and then scroll through the options to see what your word could be. So that's probably been my number one thing that's helped me the most in genealogy with deciphering the documents, is that wordmine.info website.
Right, I didn't even know about that. So there you go. Tip for people who, like me, had never known about that. So that'll work lovely. So obviously we know about one of your projects, such as your business. So is there any other projects or ventures that you're currently pursuing?
So I do, like I said, I have my handwriting course where I teach people how to read the handwriting themselves. So I taught myself to read this handwriting, and it was hard. I was trying to, look up all different resources online, get some books, try to pull from all different areas of the internet to find out how to read it. So once I learned it, I wanted to make it easier for other people to read the handwriting. So I created this online self-paced course that uses like flashcards and matching games and fun little tests and quizzes to teach people to read the handwriting themselves. So that's been my major project these last couple years. It's been really fun. It's very, very cool for me and very rewarding as a teacher to see people go from not knowing any of the handwriting to be able to translate their own documents. And I just had one student who was working so hard. He took the course in February and was really plugging through it. And he just finished and just made a picture of him with his certificate and is now working with his documents on his own. And it's so exciting for me when you get to see people's progress. I really like that.
Oh, that's great. I mean, there's probably nothing more fulfilling than kind of, knowing that kind of a lot of people have kind of like enjoyed your course and have learned from it.
Yeah, and it's just really exciting because, you get to see people who want to read their documents, and it can be so frustrating, especially with this old German handwriting. So, and then once they finally can actually see, oh my gosh, that's this word, this previous word that looked just like a scribble to me is actually the town of my ancestor. That's really, I think it's great that they're so motivated to do it.
And then, I'm not sure if you can. Oh, sorry, you go ahead. There's always.
I was just going to say then in my translation business, I'm getting to work on a lot of letter projects. I just did some letters from a soldier who was in Russia during World War II, writing home to his family. And that was he just seemed like a wonderful father. And so it was so heartwarming to see him asking about all the children and wanting to know about what was going on in their lives. So it's amazing how you can get such insight into people's lives through the diaries you translate and the letters. And It can be hard too. The soldier never ended up making it home.
Yeah.
So I felt like I knew him after translating. Knew him as much as you could, but I felt like I got a really big glimpse into his life after translating, 30 letters from him, and knowing that he didn't make it. It can be a hard job as well.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you can see the chat on your side, but
oh yeah, Nina's here. Hello, Nina. Thank you, Nina. Yeah, Nina's one of my course. Yeah, thanks, Nina. Nina's one of my course students. Nina's a great translator herself as well, and yeah, it's good to see you on here, Nina. Thanks for coming.
I had no idea that went full screen. That typically only goes like a little section of it.
Well, hey, if you're saying it's a great class and want to put it on the whole screen, that's fine with me.
I have no control over this, so whatever it does, it does. Is there anything you now know that you wish you knew when you started?
I think just to kind of that not everybody knows what they're doing. I know your main audience can be Gen Z, and it is an older field for sure. A lot of people don't have time to do genealogy until they're retired. And I started in the field too when I was in my 20s, and it can be overwhelming feeling like, okay, do everybody else really knows what they're doing, and I'm new and I don't know what I'm doing. But I think something that's important to know in this field is that everybody is so welcoming, and everybody is excited about genealogy and excited to share what they know. So don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid of not knowing the answer, because everyone had to start somewhere. So don't feel stupid that you don't know. Just ask, and people love sharing all that they've learned through their genealogy. So be brave enough to ask, and know that other people are in the same boat as you, and someday that you'll be the one who's been around for 50 years in the field.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to look at it. And something I will add on to that, and I'm sure anyone watching, and possibly even yourself, Katherine, you would have kind of felt, the lovely thing that is imposter syndrome, kind of hitting you, kind of bringing it down a bit. That's another thing, and obviously, it's kind of all done, kind of saying, you're doing fine, and then you then feel, right, am I really doing any good at this, or that sort of thing. And that's another thing. Try not to let it take over. I know that's not really much to add on, but even I'd like to bring up the comments. I'm going to move up again because another one's going to be flicking in. Just saying, couldn't miss this one. Nina. You guys together is perfect. So
thank you, Nina.
Aspects of genealogy take the most. So, like finding old records, seeing photos, learning stories, that sort of thing.
All of the above. I think the thing that I like most is having just learned that people are the same no matter what century they lived in. I mean, especially with having translated so many diaries and letters, it's fascinating to me that people have the same issues no matter what. They get worried about family members talking behind their back, or they get worried that their neighbor's going to be offended with them. And that even with the pandemic, it's fascinating to see the parallels between like now and the flu pandemic from 100 years ago, like people going through the same things as we are now. So I think that's what I love the most about it, is we always think history is way in the past and people were different then, but through working with their diaries and letters, seeing that these people had the same hopes and dreams and fears and worries and got annoyed at the same things as us. It's really cool to me to see how humans just stay the same from generation to generation.
And the phrase I've heard from many others, I can't remember who was the kind of first to say it, but kind of, adding flesh to the bones of kind of like the ancestors who were dead long before. So irony, I know I'm not. I bring it in the worst. But kind of, you know, it just kind of adds a bit of kind of human layer to it instead of just kind of seeing their name on a page or something.
It definitely does. I mean, like I said, these letters I translated recently for the soldier in who didn't make it home. The family was saying, you know, they never really got to know much about him. They never really, they just had kind of heard his name because, of course, he died long before they were born. So hearing the words that he wrote and hearing how he was as a father and stuff really made him come to life for them. And they were able to feel like they knew him so much more rather than just, like you said, looking at a name on a page. So that is, you really do realize that these people were people too, like I said, with hopes and dreams and worries and fears, and that just makes it, you feel so much more connected then.
Yeah, definitely. So, I'm not near the end of my questions, so don't worry, everyone. But if you do have anything that you want to ask Katherine, please do get it in. And hopefully I can look on the screen. It's done it twice, so hopefully it'll do it. I don't know. So, what's an interest story? Now, you can be as detailed or as little detailed as you want. I don't mind.
Okay.
But what's an interesting story or event that you've discovered?
One that I like is my ancestor. His name was Wilhelm Daniel Müller. He was born in 1811 in Germany, and he had the worst luck in marriage ever. I think he married his first wife in the 1840s, and she died after about a month. And then he got married again. And this one, the second one, I think her name was Filipina. She died after a year. They had one child together. And then he decided to try his luck a third time. And he actually married a baroness. So she was a very wealthy lady from Switzerland. And they had 6 children together. But she only lasted 5 years. So you might get a little suspicious of this guy, but he was a pastor, Protestant pastor. So they had 7 children. And I don't know if you're familiar with the movie The Sound of Music, but this is what it really reminds me of. He was a man alone with 7 children. And then he hired a local woman from the village because he couldn't take care of 7 children by himself. So I love The Sound of Music. And this just sounds like, you know, the Sound of Music story. And this lady, she was a 20-year-old, I guess, maid from the village, and she came in, ended up that he got her pregnant, and that was my however many great grandmas. I can't remember how many grades off the top of my head at the moment, but that was, so we're not, my family always jokes, we're not descended from the baroness, we're descended from the maid. But then they had 6 more children together. So altogether they had 13 children. And then one of them was I guess it was my great great grandfather Fritz, and he was the one who emigrated to America. So I just think that's a fascinating story with so many Sound of Music parallels in that.
Did he marry the maid in?
He did. Well, this is.
They
did get married afterwards, but it was illegitimate. First child was illegitimate, and he was a pastor, and he actually ended up getting kicked out of. He was fired from his job because he had a child out of wedlock. So they did get married, but not until he had already lost his job.
Oh, right.
No.
I mean, I can't imagine that many children. I'm sorry. Imagine like 13 children just like 13 children running circles around me.
Well, it sounds so crazy, but actually my mom nowadays, she's one of 10 children. So it's still in our family that there's 10 aunts and uncles and 27 cousins. So I guess that big family just runs from generation to generation.
It must be. So what type now? You can either include like your own genealogy into this or your job into this. I don't mind.
Okay.
But
okay.
What type of record do you like most?
Yeah, I think I'll do for my job because like I said, it's so hard for me to do my own genealogy. Like I said, we have that giant book that my family published. I do know at least that line back to the 1600s, but I'm so interested in more of it when I do it every single day for other people. It's hard to find time to do it for myself, except if I get a little bored sometimes at work. I do find myself going on newspapers.com and looking at my ancestors because I think newspapers.com is fascinating. But for the records for other people, I mean, the church records, you can find so much information in Germany and Austria. They kept church records and you can find a lot. But honestly, the thing that I love to translate the most are diaries because, I mean, who wouldn't like to read somebody else's personal diary and get all the secrets? So I love, and I always think these people never would have thought that some American 200 years later would be reading their private thoughts. But, you know, I do obviously be respectful of it. And it's so fascinating. I think one of my favorites was I translated a diary of a woman who was going to visit her husband who was stationed in Thailand. And she traveled by ship from Germany to Thailand, all like around the coast of Europe, through the Strait of Gibraltar, I believe, and then through close to Egypt, and then through like the Arabian Peninsula, and then all the way to Thailand. And that was fascinating. It was, you know, early 1900s, and she described getting off at the different ports and the food on the ship. And on each page, she was writing about how, oh, I miss my husband. I can't wait to see my husband. I'm so excited for our reunion. And so I was going on, you know, hundreds of pages translating. I miss my husband. I'm so excited to see him. And I was really looking forward to the reunion myself. And then the diary stopped right before she saw her husband. She made it to Thailand, and that was the last entry when she landed in Thailand. I missed the reunion. So I was like, I felt like I had read an entire book and then not gotten to see the ending.
Is this like, you know, what's that movie? Is it The Italian Job or something? That, you know, it's like ends on a cliffhanger and just stops.
Yeah, that's what it was. I'm like, yeah.
I can't. But it just sounds like, you know, it just ends on a cliffhanger and is never. But,
yeah, it was very anticlimactic. I was really looking forward to it, but it wasn't to be. I guess that's the difference between diaries and actual books.
Yeah. So, what does genealogy mean to you?
For me, it's a way to be connected. I mean, I think a lot of people don't really understand it until they start doing their own genealogy. And once you get into it, people, I think, really become addicted to it because it's just, you feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself. You know the people who have been here before you, who are the reason that you're here. And I think it's just a way for us to be connected to one another and to the past.
Yeah. And I think you just put it great there. It's just kind of, I don't know what else I can say. You kind of just wrapped it up. I'm just going to stop talking before I actually like stop up my words and it just doesn't come out right. So I'll do some questions in the audience now. So another one from Nina. So I'm not sure how far this is going to go in, but okay, there we go. Any of you in the new class will be. There are probably people in my local genealogy. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, and sorry in advance. German group.
Yeah.
Thank you. Who are going to want this info?
Yeah, so for German SIG is a German special interest group. I don't want to give a set date yet, Nina. I have been going a little slower than I hoped, but hopefully ASAP. I'm working on it, but I'm hesitant to give a set date just because things keep getting in the way. But hopefully as soon as possible, and you guys will be the first to know. Nina's one of my premium members, so I'll definitely let you know as soon as I have more date info.
Right, and I can't remember what context this is for, but Talfpedia, I'm not sure if you'd seen this.
No.
This is a new follower on Twitter who I think is following your work, and if the thing would pop up, one FN, I don't know what the bits mean. I have 19 attestations of the name with variations, but it's something like Stickler West Prussia. They just said, sorry, my question got deleted somehow. The first part was,
Okay, that makes more sense. We'll find out. Yeah.
Well, I'll wait until the actual question pops in, and then I'll bring it all up again. So while we're waiting for that, so what advice would you give to a young person starting out in genealogy?
I would tell them to be excited because it's a wonderful journey. If you're just starting, it's so fun, and don't get overwhelmed. Kind of just be excited about it. And obviously, document. A lot of people in genealogy starting out say, "Oh, my grandmother said that her dad came over from Germany in 1872, and that must be when it was. I'm just going to write that down." That could very well be right, but you need to actually double check your sources because you can really cause yourself a lot of frustration later on if you're not 100% sure that you're looking at the right person. Especially in German, there's a lot of people with the same names. So you might get a lot of Johann Schmidts. There's a lot of towns with the same names. So if you're researching in Germany and your ancestor comes from Neumarkt, there could be 10 different Neumarks or even more in Germany. So make sure you know the exact region that town is in before you just start looking in one of the towns, because that will save you a lot of frustration later on too.
Good advice. So, with times changing and obviously more and more young people getting into genealogy, do you believe, in your own opinion, that there is kind of like a sufficient outlet for young genealogists to connect and collaborate and just connect with others their own age, kind of thing?
I think it's getting better and better. I mean, I think it's great what you're doing and really trying to get the Gen Z people to get connected and excited about it. And I think, there's the group, the Next Gen, who meets up with each other at conferences. So that's usually a young group of genealogists, and that's been really fun for me whenever I go to conferences to meet up with them. And, there's not a lot of people, 40 and younger at conferences. So I think it's really nice to have that group to see other people who are your own age. The older people are wonderful too. So I would also say, don't be scared to talk to them because they're the ones who have a lot of experience and great stories. So, but yeah, I mean, I think Next Gen is great. I think it's great what you're doing. And, the more we can get younger people excited about it, the better it will be too. So.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we have to do. Like, I mean, just kind of help out any kind of young genealogists when possible. I was almost going to say something, but I actually need to check if I can say it first. But stick close to my socials because I'll announce it there if I can. But yeah, I mean, it's just trying to help like the kind of young people. Like my Follow Fridays. Well, I will do it after this, but it'll actually turn out to be a Follow Saturday, which I have done a few times, or a Follow, I don't know what day this is going to be done on. It's just so like a few tweets of like every kind of Gen Z genealogist that I know or that are following me on Twitter and that I'm following, so that that person who's following me can find them. So
that's
it's just
great.
And for any Gen Z genealogists that may be watching, if you have like, I think it's something ridiculous, but if you have like 500 to 600 followers on Twitter, it's one of them. You'll go up in search results. I know it seems steep, but it's stupid when it's a case of, because the reason why I'm saying is if you type in like on Twitter hashtag Gen Z genealogist, any person with that in their bio with a certain amount of followers will appear. So like I appear, another two Gen Z people, Josh and Katie, they show up under that hashtag alongside me because we had that in the bio. Followers, stick and you'll appear. It might take a while, but if you don't, please tag me and we'll try and include you on next one.
That's great.
so I just a person who asked the question had to come in. So I'll try and do this meant to go in. So the question was, would you, I don't know what an FN is, in old church documents?
I'm not
that
sure
seems
either.
to be
Can you,
unique.
are you saying I was going to say, is he saying Familienname? Is that what you mean? If you could let us know exactly what you mean by FN, and hopefully we can answer that question.
Yeah. I'll leave it until I find out. In old church documents that seem to be unique historically, I figured this has never happened. That every FN should turn up at least a few Google results. Yeah.
Okay.
Word that you, oh, sorry. It says, sorry, family name.
That's what I was thinking. I was saying the German Familienname, but yeah, family name. That was my guess. Yeah, I mean, when I am trying to transcribe last names from a church record that I am not sure if it exists, I will first go to a GeoGen. Can I write in the chat, Daniel, or not? I don't think so. I'll spell it for you. It's
yeah.
Okay, it's GeoGen.
Yeah.
Dot.
Yeah.
STOEPEL.net. And that's a little website.
STO. Sorry about that.
It's okay. It's okay. STOEPEL.net.
Fine. That's kind of.
I'll see if it's right.
Sorry, I forgot. I didn't want to interrupt. But the other kind of bits that Taffy saying was, this is laggy, but I have one. Seems it may be unique. I have 19 to state the name with different spelling variations, but it's something like Stiglerweight from West Prussia. Continuing on. Experts have proposed to me every origin under the surname under the sun, not surname. Germanic, Scandinavian, Baltic, including Old Prussian, or even Slavic. I'm going to butcher it. Danke im Voraus. I don't know.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Danke im Voraus. I mean, thank you in advance. You did a good job. Yeah. So
I'm French, German.
So that GeoGen website that I just mentioned, that's a good way to check last names that come from Germany. You can type in the last name in there and it will show you if it exists, what region it is most prevalent in Germany. And I usually try to make sure the last name does exist on there. If it doesn't, that could be a sign that I've transcribed it wrong. However, there are certainly some last names that do exist that may not be on that map, especially if it comes from an area outside of Germany. In that case, I will go to Google and I'll type in my last name and put the word Nachname after it. That's the German word for last name. So that's Nachname, Nachname. And if the last name exists, that should give me some results. If you're not getting any Google hits, I have definitely been there, but I tend to find that usually means I mistranscribed the name. You want to be getting at least some hits. With that Stiegelweit name or whatever you had said it was, some spelling variations. Yeah, Daniel, that looks good. Some spelling variations that you might want to check with that. G's can always be replaced with K's. So G and K's are often swapped in German spelling. So what else did you have in there? T's and D's. So G's and K's can be switched with one another. T's and D's can be switched with one another. You didn't have these two, but a B and a P are often swapped, and an F and a V. So if you're not finding any Google hits with your spelling, you can try some of those swaps and try searching for the Nachname. Another website that I like to look at to double check last names is forebears.io. That's a good one where you can see if the last name exists, because you should be at least getting some hits. I would find it very unlikely if you type in a last name and get absolutely nothing. It should at least turn up something through one of those 3 sites or by Googling it with the word Nachname, last name, after it.
Fair enough. And the GeoGen, which I really hope I hope I did spell it right.
You did, yes, that's great.
Nina's GeoGen is the Holy Bible for me.
Me too.
So it does sound like a useful website, but then again, if you did my family tree, you'd only find Irish as far as you can go up. I don't have any like direct answers that go that so like come from elsewhere. They come from elsewhere. They just seem to come from the same counties in Ireland. No matter where I go, it's just the same counties, which is fine. I don't have like one coming over from the UK or like one escaping from French. Sorry, escaping from speak today.
One of those days.
Yeah. The person who asked that question wrote in saying, "Thank you, Katherine. Great tips, much appreciated. I've never seen GeoGen before. Very cool site." So
it is. It's a wonderful site. I use it every day. Right. Yeah, good. I'm glad it helped.
Well, and I think on that note, which we're doing, we should end. So, thank you so much, Katherine, for on and being my metaphorical guinea pig for this. With the new system. But I'll do it. Like I only have one after this, so it's which I for any of you that may be new to this is the last episode of this series, and then I have to work on getting them all in audio format. Yay! I'm kidding. It'll be fine. I've done 4 out of this. Well, this is 29, so I've done 4 out of the 29 so far. I'm working. I will eventually do the 5th one. I just really have to pluck up the desire to actually do it. But that'll come.
You can do it.
That'll come. Yeah. So for anyone that isn't already following me, find me on Twitter under the handle Daniel Genealogy, which I will hopefully shortly, be announcing my final interviewee of Genealogy Live Interviews Series 3. So until then, thank you everyone for coming, and I shall see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
I forgot I wasn't waving in the right. Bye, everyone.